I've lived by the sea my whole life. The beaches were a huge part of my childhood, and something I dearly miss now that I live in the city. Growing up, summers were full of sunshine, sand and sea. And laughter. Lots of laughter. I would never suspect the sea of having a hidden agenda. Now, don't get me wrong. I am well aware of the dangers surrounding the tides, marine wildlife, and too much heat exposure. But what I'm talking about is something different. Something not of this world. I went home recently for a long weekend away. At first, things seemed normal. I volunteered to take my dog, Charlie, for one of his daily beach walks, something I considered a treat. Blue skies for miles around and fresh, salty air replacing the polluted overcrowding of the big smoke. Charlie is a fairly timid dog. He likes to keep himself to himself and isn't interested in other humans or dogs. He just wants me to throw him a ball over and over again. About 15 minutes into the walk, Charlie bolted straight into the sea and crashed into the waves. "Charlie! Charlie!" I called, willing the pesky bugger to come back. He probably couldn't even hear me over the spray. As I jogged to the shoreline to retrieve him, he ran past me and rolled straight into fresh sand coating his fur. Great, I thought. Mum is going to love me. We carried on when once again he bolted into the sea without warning. It was like he was possessed by a sudden need to be in the water. I ran after him, determined to put him on his back and give him a telling off for his disobedience. But he was gone. I saw him enter the water right in front of me, but now he was nowhere to be seen. Panicked, I scanned the waterline left and right, but there was no sign of him. "Charlie! Charlie!" I was knee-deep in the sea by now, my jeans soaked to my skin. "Charlie! Come on, boy!" Out of nowhere, the grey clouds threw a gigantic bolt of lightning across the sky. I hadn't even noticed the clouds arrive. It was a clear blue sky when I left. "Charlie!" Then came the rumble. It was as if the noise was coming from the sea itself. It was getting louder and louder, as if the sea were roaring. As if the sea was alive. Alive and angry. The waves were out of control and the riptide was threatening to pull me under. Another bolt of lightning. I was really panicking now. I had to get out of the water. I turned back to the shore, but I couldn't see it. I was miles out. But that wasn't possible. I hadn't gone 20 meters and I could still touch the floor, the seabed. But no. It was sinking beneath me, melting away, and I struggled to keep my head above water. The roaring was deafening now and I screamed above the noise for help. How could anyone hear me? How could this be happening? I thought of Charlie and how he can't have survived this freak storm. Of my mum at home waiting for us when my heart skipped a beat. Mum. The image of my mum in my mind's eye gave me a surge of energy, and I swam as hard and as fast as I could in the direction I thought the shoreline must be. The roaring was changing, morphing as if it were laughing at me, at my attempts to escape. Waves crashed around me and grabbed hold of my clothing like invisible hands, closing around my ankles and wrists. I could feel each finger pressing into my skin. It was dragging me down. I fought to stay upright with all my might, but soon enough I was underwater, being dragged deeper and deeper. I thrashed and fought, but it was so much stronger than me. I had no air left in my lungs and I needed to draw breath. I needed air. I couldn't go on for much longer. And then all was calm and blue, and I was floating, flying. Suddenly, I felt a new, much stronger force pulling by my collar and out from under the current. I forced the first breath as the thing dragged me by the neck away from the monster. "Charlie, you're alive!" He just swam and swam and swam until we reached the beach and kept on dragging past the sand and onto the grassy verges where he collapsed. I don't remember much after that. Strangers I couldn't quite see were all around me, saying words I couldn't quite hear. I just held Charlie and stroked his ears. "Thanks, boy." The last thing I remember seeing before I passed out was how bright and blue the sky was for miles around. I'll never forget that day. I have no idea what happened, and everyone on the shore swears we never left shallow waters. I can't explain it, and the only other soul who experienced it with me can't either. But either way, I know how dangerous the sea really is.